and you know, in our own society, we see this big split right now. And where do you find reason for hope in any of these situations? I think it's easy to find evidence for despair. How do you? Yeah.
That was certainly one of the motivations for writing the book, recognizing how bad things are today,
Yeah.
and it was enough. If it weren't so bad, I might have been perfectly happy continuing to do the research and publishing the scientific papers and building that body of knowledge and waiting until I had a more complete answer. Right now, it's so bad. I felt compelled to report what I've found so far in an
Yeah.
attempt
Yeah.
to help address some of these issues. So one way of thinking about the book is, in many ways, it's like peeling the layers of an onion, and each chapter conveys a different problem with how we're seeing the world, that adds to our understanding of these issues. And so when I finally get to this, these international issues, international situations, that's when I start pulling it all together, and helping, with the goal of helping people understand how it all fits. And so one through line in the book gets to this issue of how we perceive matters of competence and integrity. So I posit this early on in the book, that there are these asymmetries, but then I start exploring, well, what do we even mean by that distinction? How do we make these distinctions between competence and integrity? And do we do them well? Do we make these distinctions well? And it turns out we don't do that either. And so, so I explore that issue, and then I examine this question of, what does integrity really mean? All it means is that others adhere to principles we find acceptable. But it turns out that when you look in the broader world, that's not a simple judgment to make, because the evidence from the social sciences indicates that we may all gravitate towards a certain set of values. I think there are 5 or 6 core values that have been identified in the literature. But even if we share those principles, we prioritize those principles differently. So what does this mean in a situation where you're dealing with other groups that, in the political sphere or internationally? It can mean that people can develop very different conceptions of integrity based on how they prioritize these values. And if you prioritize these values in a certain way and others don't exhibit behavior consistent with that rank ordering, it is very easy to condemn others as having low integrity, as believing that their integrity is low. But if that difference is the result of them prioritizing those values differently, they won't agree with you. They will believe that they have integrity and, in fact, feel unfairly maligned for you pointing your finger at them, and they will, in turn, do the same to you. So what does this create? It creates a situation where people are essentially trying to impose their value systems on others. It creates a situation of where the incentive is essentially dominance. You want to make the other side relent and accept your values, and they will try to do the same thing to you. It gets us nowhere. And so one of the things that the book sort of raises is, it's only when we move beyond this orientation towards dominance to an orientation that involves dialogue, of actually recognizing that our value systems might be somewhat different, but if we can recognize that they are still good people, then it becomes a different kind of conversation. It's not merely a matter of imposing our value system on them. It's about negotiating how best to achieve the values that we all share. And so it becomes a matter of how rather than a matter of what. And I think that's the hope for moving forward. It's the hope that is evidenced by many examples, not only in the international relations sphere, but even in, for example, labor management disputes, where two sides will be in a battle where they try to overwhelm the other through force. And it's only when each side recognizes that this isn't working, that domination is not going to solve the
Yeah.
problem, and they're in a difficult position, a painful position, that they start becoming more open to the possibility of real dialogue, of coming up with a negotiated solution that both sides can live with.